Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So glad you made it. Yes, please remember to like and subscribe as we get into a discussion about, yeah, that's right, the Weber 26-inch model. Now I think we all have friends that may have owned a Weber, or you may have owned a Weber at one point in your life, and people swear by this. Well, we're going to test this out on a brisket, and yes, going to do some ribs too, because you know me, I love my ribs. And we're going to try and figure out, hey, how well does this really stand up? Because a lot of my buddies that have the Weber, they swear by it. Okay, so let's talk about this Weber 26-inch Mastertouch that I picked up. Yes, I can't resist a sale. If I see a sale, I just gotta watch it. This was at 500 bucks, went down to 400 bucks, went to 350, and then, you know, it showed up at 250. And at that point, I was like 50% off. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. So I did this, and I gotta tell you, it's not a bad unit, and remarkably, I'm really surprised with just how much bigger it is in that 22. Okay, I went ahead and got a cart to set this up proper and everything, massaged it so it all fit in there just right, and you know what, I was pretty happy with it, you know, because it is much bigger than that standard 22. When I looked at the 22, I just couldn't see myself ever making a brisket on it, to be quite honest about it. But the 26 just looks like it was, you know, brisket ready. And yes, I did accessorize a little bit, and, you know, went ahead and burned it in proper, got it seasoned and everything with a little bit of cherry wood. And yeah, this thing can get up to some pretty serious temperatures. So okay, let's see if I can do a brisket on this. Now, I was really concerned because, you know, there's a lot that goes into this, and the number one thing that people do is the snake method, and yeah, I think that was probably a little bit too much wood, but I went ahead and invested in this tip-top temp, you know, device that's supposed to help you hold the temperature for those long cooks. Well, it sort of worked, but wasn't all the way there. So then I went ahead and invested in the fire dial, and this was to even out, if you will, the temperatures and give yourself some good smoke. But at the end of the day, I fell back to what worked before, and that was the ChefTemps with the Breezo. Yeah, I got the little fan, hooked up a steel funnel going into it. I know it looks a little bit, you know, rednecky, but you have to remember I grew up in Texas. But monitoring the temps with my brand new, you know, thermal, you know, imaging camera, and you know, it seemed to be working out pretty well. So, you know, at that point, I built up the confidence and said, okay, let's do this. And believe me, I ran about 3 or 4 times on that, trying to get the confidence up. So the plan, the typical, hey there, typical plan, overnight brine, 225 degrees smoke, and then I'm going to pull this when it gets to 170. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish it in the oven at that point, because, you know, I'm not going to be adding any more smoke on it at that point. I'm going to wrap it up and get it in there. So trimming this up, as you know I do, not always the best trimmer, but saving some of this for sausage a little bit later. And going on with my blacks rub first, just going to give that a little bit of seasoning, you know, on all the sides and, you know, frontwards and backwards and all the way in between. And then using that hardcore carnivore black on top of this. This has just been my, you know, go-to for the longest time. Yes, I've been experimenting with the Goldie's method. I like it a lot, but I figured, you know what? Let me go with what I know should work and what I feel comfortable with, right? And, you know, give it the best shot that I can, you know, on that 26. So there you go, all done. Throwing it in the fridge overnight. Got that dry brine going on. Next day, bright and early, we're ready for this cook. And I'm starting this off, you know, getting the torch on there, getting those things, you know, heated up, throwing the fire dial in, putting a drip pan in place. Yeah, this is a pizza pan that basically I'm repurposing for a drip pan here, and it fits just right, actually. Got that balanced in there, leveled out rather, and then, you know what, we're ready to go. So out of the fridge and basically getting this positioned into place. And yes, I've got a thermometer in place to measure the grate temperature, and I'm also going to put a probe right there in the flat and another one down in the point. Okay, so I'm instrumented up at 7 a.m. in the morning, and you know what? This thing is appearing to take off pretty well. And before too long, I was, right at that 225 I was targeting. And I'll tell you right now, this was holding out pretty well. 5 hours in, and we were holding temperature just right. And so that's coming together.
Yeah, that's looking good.
And I need to put some more water in there. But you can't open this too often because you let all the heat out. But it's been holding temperature fairly well. So there you go. I mean, it was, game on, and everything was flying pretty nice, Checked in on it a little bit later, about 12.5 hours later, and that had some good bark in place and everything. And I thought, you know what, let me turn on that thermal camera and just see where we're at. And oddly, it had a good amount of heat there on the left, 370 to 385 degrees. That was from the snake, lineup of the charcoal in there. And then the surface temperature of the brisket was, temping right at, 170. So everything was coming along actually fairly well. I was impressed with, the management of this. And, next, about 14 hours in, decided to pull it, laid down some tallow onto some butcher paper, and then basically kind of said, okay, let's take the probes off of this and get this thing situated. And it was about this time I realized, you know what, I need to reorient that paper a little bit. Yeah, it looked pretty good, right there. But then I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to swap this around. So went ahead and put on some tallow on top, rotated it around in the paper, and then I wrapped it up. And then I thought, you know what, I didn't do a great job. So then, don't ask me why, guys. I just foil boated it as well. Now it's going in the oven, so it's not really going to matter, but hey, there you go. Not my best wrap ever, but it seemed to work. And just pulling this apart, I was really curious, how well did we burn? We were right on target. I had put just the right amount of charcoal in there, and I mean, it burned all the way through down to that point. Okay, so now the big question, how did this taste? How did we do, right? So let that rest in the oven pretty much overnight and the next day. So 5 p.m. the next day, we had this thing set out for dinner. And I mean, it was jiggling nicely. And yeah, after the rest, I mean, I was pretty pleased with the bark development on this. And the fat rendering was really, really excellent as well. I mean, this was looking really good. So I mean, it was dinner time. Everybody was been, getting hangry. So I mean, it was time to slice this thing up all the way through. And you know what? I wanted to get some burnt ends going here. But yeah, I mean, this was a decent brisket, just decent through and through. And, I'll give you a little sense as to what we thought, just when we were cutting this up and sampling it. It was good. Yep. Now, while it was a good brisket, it was a lot less smokier than the dual fire. It did render the fat well. It was very moist. It had that charcoal flavor, but it just wasn't up there completely, right? So some of the learnings I had off this, the ChefTemps, that and the Breezo saved me. The fire dial was a huge help. The drip pan was great. But all in all, this was a fair amount of work for that brisket. So let's move on to some pork ribs and do another low and slow. And in this case, we're going to put the black cherry chipotle up against the John Henry's family favorite. They both are. The plan, the usual, 4-hour brine. In this case, not overnight. Gonna smoke at 225, braise at 250, and glaze at 275. And basically gonna dust these up fairly well and remove the membrane, and effectively just do what I normally do, because I'm trying to compare this to what I get off the dual fire and just see how well this comes out. And in the back of my mind, I'm actually wondering whether or not I'm going to get enough smoke on things here, and because of what I saw off the brisket. And so I did add a little bit more wood to the equation this go round. In this case, I set up just a domino effect, everything linear. And because I'm going to be, raising the temperature at the end, I put a little bit more charcoal around the timing wise that I thought I would need at the end. So same setup with the drip pan, the fire dial, and everything in place. And you know what? We were ready to roll. So ribs getting into position right there in the middle, and then effectively just going to close that lid and let the ChefTemps manage the billows to do its thing. And that was it, guys. So 3 hours later, we were ready to braise. Standard, approach here where I put, a half stick of butter down first, covered that with honey, dusted up a little bit more with the seasoning and such, and then we're going to lay the ribs on, into position, face down. And one of the things is, if you watch the kettle over there, you'll notice that it starts to get a little bit more smokier, and that's because letting that oxygen in there, and so that heat is actually rising, even though the temperature is saying, the thermostat is basically saying, hey, we're losing temperature. So the billows start to kick in, and then again, you get a lot of that extra smoke coming out. So now that I've got those ribs in place, putting some more butter on the bone side, more honey on the bone side, and then yes, going to go ahead and dust them a little bit more with the seasoning and so forth. I have just found this approach works really well for me, and the family and the kids love it. And then putting a little bit of the apple juice into place, and then wrapping these back up, and then putting them back into position. And so this worked out pretty well, because in leaving that thing open and letting the heat build up, we got to 250 fairly quickly. Now, that being said, not too much longer, we were ready to get the glaze going on. Went ahead and put on the gloves for this one, because we were leaking a little bit of juice out the ends, and got those into place. Now here, basically, once I open these up, it's just a matter of flipping them, and then leaving them within the braising fluid, so that after I glaze them, they're still staying moist, at least on the bottom side, while they get that glaze hardened up at the higher temperature up above, right? That just keeps them moist and such, and the family does kind of like them almost fall off the bone. So putting the black cherry chipotle in place on the black cherry chipotle ribs, putting the John Henry's in place on the John Henry's, and then dusting them up a little bit further. And then once we get that all completed, it's back into the kettle one more time. And I'm gonna go ahead and run this up to 275. And I will say, I gotta compliment the ChefTemps on this and the Breezo. This worked fairly well. It was able to ramp those temperatures up. Now, got to the point, ready to come off. And yes, these things were super tender, okay? Got the black cherry chipotle off first, but they were so tender on that John Henry side that, it just snapped in half. There was a weak spot there. But you know what? Kind of touched it up a little bit, almost couldn't tell, but hey, I knew it was there. Either way, both of these were looking pretty good. And so pulled those in, basically sliced those up really quick, and went ahead and put those on the serving platter and got those ready for the official taste test. And I have to say, I think these came out a little bit better than the brisket did, but again, not a lot of smoke, okay? So it was less smoky, but texture was perfect, and the charcoal flavor was actually pretty good here too. So dual fire went out on both the brisket and the ribs, all in all. Sorry, my kettle bros. Okay, it's Zen time. So recently I had a chance to sit in one of those automated driverless cars. That's right, no taxi cab driver, And it was a little weird at first, but after a bit, I kind of got used to it, and I thought, well, why are they wanting to do this, And then my wife got some coffee from a robot. And then I thought, well, how much do you tip a robot? And then it occurred to me,
kind of cool.
Why are they doing all this automation? Is it because of the tips? Could it be? Hey everybody, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I really enjoy it when you do that. And a like doesn't hurt either. But most of all, give me some comments.